Inside Africa, in association with Zenith Bank.
Here, in the high hills of East Africa, a rich mountain climbing tradition has found a foothold.
So you have all sorts of manner of people climbing at different levels.
From equatorial ice climbing atop Mount Kenya
Kenya's always had a tradition of climbing.
to urban climbing in the heart of Nairobi.
It's harder than I thought.
I was like, what is this? I just want to get more.
This is the story of a country's climbing pioneers.
It was easy for me at the age of 15 to slip into it.
And a new generation ready to take the lead.
Adrenaline, a lot of it.
These are Kenya's climbers. This is Inside Africa.
Hell's Gate is a national park, one of the smallest national parks in Kenya. It's about 68.25 square kilometers. It's a climbing paradise.
Hell's Gate is only one of the many world-class climbing destinations here in Kenya's Great Rift Valley.
Within a 2-hour drive of Nairobi, there are 5, perhaps 6 major rock climbing areas. The Rift Valley extends from Jordan all the way down through the Red Sea and down through Ethiopia and Kenya, Tanzania, right down to Zimbabwe. And it's probably at its most spectacular here in Kenya.
Born and raised in Kenya, Iain Allan has climbed all over the world.
It's me at one of the belays on the main wall at Hell's Gate. Climbing has always had quite a culture in Kenya. And the first ascent of Mount Kenya was in 1899. And at that time, that climb was the hardest climb in the world, harder than anything in the Alps or the Himalayas that had been climbed. So from that point on, it had a reputation as being a major climbing destination, a major climbing peak.
When Iain was a teenager, Hell's Gate was a climber's heaven, a secluded spot where he could push his limits without rules or supervision.
He's a legend. His name is Iain Allan. That man have climbed almost everything in Hell's Gate. But that was back in 1970s, 1960s. He was still climbing in Hell's Gate. It was not even a national park by then.
It's amazing that I didn't die in Hell's Gate between 1964 and 1967, because I was really doing things there that I probably shouldn't have been doing.
Luckily, in 1967, Iain Allan met Ian Howell, a pioneering mountaineer with an international reputation.
This is a photograph here of Ian climbing in an area called Soitpus, which is just near Sultan Hamid on the Mombasa Road.
Howell saw potential in the young and brazen Allan.
This was also on the main wall at Hell's Gate. This photo is quite interesting because this is actually a roof coming out. So Iain and I started developing the climbing at Hell's Gate. And on the main wall at Hell's Gate, which is a big serious wall, about 450 feet high, there are 67 routes on it, and Iain and I put up 61 of them. And that was just at Hell's Gate. So we climbed for about 30 years together here. When you get to really know each other, you don't even talk. It's almost like you have a sixth sense between you. And it's definitely a very strong bond because you're putting total faith in each other. But it's a difficult one to define.
This invisible bond that binds together the climbing community is what drives James Maina and his younger brother Stephen. Today, they're summiting the main wall in Hell's Gate.
When we started climbing, I think the bolts came even closer. I don't know if he can realize that, yeah, as a brother. He respects me, I respect him, and we stay happy, always. I grew up deep inside the village. It's not like here, there's not so much developed, so I grew up in a big family of 10 children, and I'm a rock climbing instructor by profession. But I try to do something at least different. So that's why I'm here, doing such crazy things like rock climbing. I'm married to one beautiful woman, and I have 2 kids. She didn't know what rock climbing was about, so I had a big challenge to tell her exactly what I do. She was thinking that I'm crazy.
1 year ago, Stephen left the village as well to join James in what he calls his crazy profession. Today, Stephen will make his first attempt of stiletto, a challenging route established by Iain Allan in 1968.
Stiletto is actually a route that I put up when I was at school. I called it stiletto just because it was sharp, just absolutely direct.
No, this is not something easy. It's about 400 feet. He's ready for it. Yeah.
When I was starting to do the rock climbing, I had the adrenaline, and I was scared of height. But within a short time, I conquered it, and right now I'm good.
Climbs were, for us, they were works of art. It's a very existential type of thing to do, but we would move up the cliff, taking the line of resistance, and it became something more than just a fight against a piece of rock. It was a thing of beauty. And so when we would do it, we would name it, we would grade it, and then we would write a description of it, and we would want other people to climb it. And we were very proud to have our names on the first ascent. And so these guidebooks were used extensively at that time.
Yeah, it's this one, yeah?
Yeah.
This is the one you are climbing here today.
Ahead, the journey to the top becomes even more challenging. From the canyon walls of Hell's Gate to the snowy peaks of Mount Kenya, a climber's view of climate change.
Mount Kenya is regarded as with great respect all over the climbing communities in the world.
At 17,000 feet, Mount Kenya may be the second tallest mountain in Africa. But for many who've grown up in the close-knit climbing community here, it's number 1 on their list of accomplishments.
The thing that drew me to climbing as a youngster was probably the challenge of pushing yourself in an environment that you weren't comfortable in. It was a mental barrier that was quite fun to push and understand. And you learn a lot about yourself when you're in a situation like that.
Julian Wright runs an outdoor adventure company based at Mount Kenya and works closely with the Kenya Wildlife Service.
Hey Julian. Hi, how you doing? Fine, welcome to Kenya. Thank you. You're good.
It's quite an incredible alpine environment to actually climb in because you have high altitude, quite cold conditions at night, can be quite warm during the day. The rock is fantastic. The ice can be amazing when it's there. It's an incredible landscape that you walk through. It's definitely up there with a lot of the big climbs in the world.
But I think this is one of the most beautiful mountains that we have.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely more beautiful than Kilimanjaro.
Yeah, quite beautiful than Kilimanjaro. I've done Kilimanjaro, yeah. But I think Mount Kenya is so beautiful than Kilimanjaro. I'm not saying this because I'm a Kenyan.
Sadly, this world-class climbing destination is feeling the impacts of global climate change.
I would say that the first time I went up Mount Kenya was 1964, and probably about 2/3 of the glaciers have disappeared. And that's also made the mountain more dangerous as well. The avalanche danger on Mount Kenya on certain routes has become much more extreme. Like the ice on the Lewis Glacier here, I mean, it's probably about there, that much left. All of this is gone. There are consequences to this whole sort of changing climate thing.
Hotter and drier conditions at the base of the mountain have also created a dangerous environment.
The fire was extending from this side
Yeah.
to down the Obra, the Honda Valley, maybe something between
Somewhere there.
Somewhere.
So all of that
Yeah.
burnt. About a third of the mountain burnt during the last fires, and it probably burnt for about a month. There was all sorts of efforts that went in to help fight the fires, from helicopters to crop dusters. We need to do a lot more research in order to understand it, because we are spending a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of manpower to try and put fires out and try and manage it when it happens.
In the meantime, Julian is committed to celebrating this spectacular mountain while there's still time.
There's less and less ice, less rainfall in the last 5 or 6 years. Every season there's a difference, and we all need to appreciate it for what it is, because it's changing really quickly and we may not see ice on the mountain in the next 5 years.
In October of 2018, he attempted to scale the Diamond Couloir, a fragile ice route on Mount Kenya that many believed was gone forever.
It hadn't been climbed in about 15 years, well, mainly because there hasn't been much ice and snow forming on it due to global climate change. And climbing it on the equator can be quite tricky, because during the day that snow and some of the ice gets really soft and loose. Then it can actually be quite difficult and quite dangerous actually, because it's all falling off.
In spite of the risk, made worse following an unusually wet, rainy season, Julian and his partner set out to retrace the slippery slope.
We got up it and had to spend a night halfway up the Diamond Couloir, which is quite dangerous because a lot of stuff comes off in the afternoon. Big chunks of ice, the size of a fridge. But you have no choice in that situation, so you kind of put that all aside, you focus on what you're doing and enjoy it as best you can, knowing that you're on Mount Kenya and you're climbing this amazing route that has apparently gone out. You can no longer climb it anymore, but we were doing it, and it was an incredible sensation. Once we were there, we were delighted. Pretty sure we had tears in our eyes when we got to the top.
Julian is working now to raise international awareness about the melting glaciers and disappearing ice routes along the equator.
Mount Kenya is a beautiful mountain and it needs to be respected, and the only way it's going to get that respect is for more people to write about it and talk about it and really appreciate what we've got here. People that are out here enjoying being outside, the more we respect it and the more we're going to want to conserve it. And at the end of the day, conservation should be our main goal, because we have so little left of this and we all need to work together to look after it and appreciate it.
Far below the snowy peaks of Mount Kenya, brothers James and Stephen are 3 hours into their own epic climb.
I'm trying to bring the new generation to climbing. I want to grow the rock climbing industry to higher levels. So I just have to train some few individuals and then they train others.
Next,
Oh, Mama! She really wants to climb. You don't have your helmet.
a new generation of climbers are training to take the lead.
Use your foot. It's okay, Mama. I'm holding you. Just try. Live.
There's definitely more Kenyans getting outside and climbing as a result of just learning how to climb indoors.
I love it. That's the first thing. If you're climbing, you can't be worried about other stuff. You have to concentrate on what you're doing. Poa, poa. Come on.
Liz and Dindi got bit by the climbing bug here at Blue Sky Climbing Gym in the heart of Nairobi.
I felt like, I was stuck in this routine where you go to work and you go home and there's no real physical activity around that. What are you thinking? I started climbing and that was it. I've been climbing since then. It's in your head too much. It's a workout, yeah? But there's something more about climbing, like you set your own goals. That's what I like about it. You're your only competitor. You set your goals as far as you can reach them and you go for them.
As the first climbing gym in the country, Blue Sky's staff provide both experience and expertise in training the next generation of Kenyan climbers.
The pink, I'll try and see which level it is. So let me put my shoes and see. If a climber they improve, now we as the route setter, we have to improve. But I think some people, they might do this here, and maybe do this. And I'm so glad because the community is really growing. Like we have a lot of young people coming up, especially for indoor.
Since Blue Sky opened in 2012, the sport has expanded rapidly.
Come on. Go for it. Oh.
Climbers in and out of the city are using the sport to face down their own mountains.
So it's about embracing your weaknesses and also, your shortcomings, whether you have imposed them on yourself or society has imposed these shortcomings. You always fall short in someone's eyes because we all have different standards. But you have to really believe in yourself and say, it's scary, but I did it anyway. Then I think, getting a little mud on my face was worth it.
While she got her start at Blue Sky, Liz now takes every opportunity to get outside.
Whoa!
Today, rock climbing is a family affair.
Today you're doing so many things. My first is 6 years old. She's turning 7 this year.
She's scared, Elsie.
She's not scared. She wants to go all the way up to see the view. And my second is just turned 5.
Yes.
I'm very blessed to have them in my life. Yeah. Try this side. I like that. You try and see what will work for you. Nice. So being able to have my children experience something that I'm finding enjoyment in is important to me. Have that confidence that that they can do something that they can see mom doing. Stand up. Can you do it? Yes. Good. Use your foot. Stand up. Your hand right up to the right. Come on, ma. If they see that you are passionate about something and you are into something, it also challenges them to want to seek that out for themselves. Yes! Good stuff!
For Liz, it's not an adrenaline rush that brings her to the wall. It's the chance for calm, focused meditation.
You know, you have to get into the climb, and you have to think of your moves, you have to think of what next, you have to think about how you want to achieve, you know, your goals as far as the climb is concerned. So you cannot be distracted in the process. So ultimately what that does is that you get a moment where you relax. And that for me is a beautiful thing, I think. Yeah. See what works for you, Mama, and then you give it your best, eh? And you just let her figure it out for herself. So one of the things I hope my children achieve is, first of all, number one, the nature. Looking at the birds, the animals. But you have no harness. Put your foot. Yeah. Good job. Nice. Yay.
Liz hopes that through climbing, her daughters learn more than a love for the outdoors.
Come on, just keep going, have fun, don't worry. Women really are strong, yeah? And to be able to appreciate themselves for who they are and not necessarily for who society prescribes for them to be. Come on, Mama! Woo! That for me is the ultimate gift that I would have passed on to my children, to be able to embrace their realities and be strong enough to define their own destiny.
Back in Hell's Gate, Stephen is still trying to figure out his own route.
I teach people how to do this because I was also taught how to do this, and I see it's very good for me to take some other people to certain levels.
With each successful summit, the climbers' connection grows stronger.
Good.
Skills get passed along, new stories are formed, and the quest to go higher burns even brighter.
Nice one. Good. That's great. Let's go. Thank you very much.
To me, I think climbing is for everyone. I think for me, I advocate like a culture of climbers, whether whichever color you are, whichever age you are, just keep climbing because that's what connects all of us.
I'm happy for you, young man. Thank you.
You did a good job.
Thank
Inside Africa, in association with Zenith Bank.